It's a cold expression.
Great ground. I'm gonna go back out of the earth on the side. Objection, unless you guys have a plan.
No plans.
No plans. Yeah. All right, folks, in that case, we have two terrific poets from the poetry capital of Erie, Pennsylvania. We have Mr. Great Ground right there. Mr. Chuck Joy right there. And as I said, I'm gonna go alphabetically, so I'm gonna introduce Greg first. Greg, if I can get the slides, there it is. Greg is a poet and fellow traveler on Starship Earth. It's getting weirder every day. He is currently an astonished resident of the dumbest timeline, but there are bright spots. As the poet Wendell Berry says, we have a duty to quote. Indeed. Greg is an English professor at Mercyhurst University, and along with C. Williams, runs the Sporadic Poets Hall Press. Sporadic is not actually part of the name. It's right descriptive. I didn't say that. I wouldn't call it sporadic. We're fine. He lives in Erie, PA, with his wife Christina, also here, and their two sons, not here because it's a weekend.
And it's a poetry event.
I'm going to skip a little bit. He relaxes with birds, which I think we all should do, and his dog loves him very well. I'm not so sure about my dog, so I can appreciate that. That's an achievement. Greg Brown is a teacher, poet, and critic as well.
I gave you two different ones. You can stop there. I gave you like an official one and a casual one. So don't restart.
You can just drop stuff in as you go. Greg Brown, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you, George. I'm very privileged to be here. I appreciate it. Tell us about origin stories here. You are an object in the river, carried along from plunge to rescue or expulsion to the last cascade. You are a stone dropped in a pool. You are ripples that propagate across water. Where is within you the original cell, the first one of your being? You were a seed, and now you stand, stem cell and leaf, a life laid over your heartbeat. Don't make too much of the question. Don't repeat the lie. We aren't remade every 7 years. We are permanent. We are a sizzle of chemicals. We exist only in the moment of reaction. You are a conception within the world's oyster, originated by an irritant, a wound, a bit of broken shell. The universe, that mother of pearl, layers over you, over and over again, birthing. You await the diver and discovery. This poem is called The White Butterfly. It's from a cycle of poems called the Work of Breathing. And I got interested in this term, the work of breathing, just doing some reading. And it's a medical term, meaning the minimum amount of metabolic activity to sustain life. They call that the work of breathing. It got me to thinking about all the ways we interact with air. This one's called The White Butterfly. It's named after the effect you see on X-ray when a person's lungs have collapsed from a shock wave, like an explosion. The white butterfly. The truth is that we are fragile, that we are like children's balloons or a perfect sky. A pinnacle of our science teaches chemicals to fly. The explosive leaps into light and gas, atmosphere concussed in a pressure wave. Under human intelligence, the incoherent violence of chemicals becomes an extension of rage, holocausts, and crusades. A helicopter rocket repaid with car bomb or backpack in an outdoor market or cafe. It comes on like an angry breath from some ancient god, a shaking of the body, a sudden tsunami of blood which rips through her tissues. The textbook's flat description, hydrostatic shock. A girl lies in the street covered in dust and minor cuts. Blood silenced cheeks carried by the medics without hurry. Certificates are filled out. The pronouncement, no body can make for itself. The X-ray is a curiosity, a retrospective text to explain invisible wounds, the telltale sign of crushed lung. The cloud on the film forms the image of wings. A white butterfly is the last beautiful thing. This one for wine, it makes zero sense. So the title, I can't tell you what it means, but it was actually published in two British Review once upon a time. Wine. There is no fruit sweeter than blood. Briars, blessed be, twisted in black jack oak, bitter seeds and barbed leaves. Ring the wrought pail beneath the scored hand. The wound becomes grateful to the gash. In a sandy wash below shade, tunnel scurrying things, wise to hide. There is a land lost to me, where the vines hang like curtains at the feet of the cottonwood tree. No hill will cover me, no sand to receive my spit. Split fingers stain the cheek, guessed painted with war paint. Long ago the score healed, a scar deep but not numb, a subtle thrill long with them. Under thorns broken, I found a bottle, last one in the rusting hull of a Ford. Inside was dried the air, almost ripened. All right, now George said that this crowd was grizzled ears. I think he meant, I asked him if it was tender ears, he said grizzled ears. I think it wasn't like a statement or anything other than, your grown experience. Right, so you probably remember who Kenneth Starr was, the Starr Report. Nostalgia for Kenneth Starr. What is the space between naivete and a blowjob? Whatever it was, we lost it. Blown our goddamn minds all over the map. It's worse when you focus on the small things. I've heard it said that pornography looks like open heart surgery at close range. Blue counties spread varicose veins across the nation tattooed with horrible graffiti, where once we thought we knew ourselves, believed there were very fine people on both sides. And sure, some of the news is hysteria porn, but didn't we used to say that gulags, white vans were always wrong? It's not exactly innocence that's lost, but tell me, what does it mean to be starved in the lap of Babylon? And this poem is also potentially offensive. It's about Guantanamo Bay and the recent plan to put people there again when it should be closed down. That became too expensive and it's cheaper to do something else. So maybe a day now, thankfully. Jesus is in Gitmo. Jesus is in Gitmo with Jose and Juanita and Ricardo. Jesus is in Gitmo, an extrajudicial territory where the hung guard pissed on the revelation to Muhammad. Jesus is in Gitmo and Catholic, like Samuel Alito, Sonia Sotomayor, John Roberts, Clarence Thomas, Amy Coney Barrett, and Brett Kavanaugh. Jesus is in Gitmo, where all detainees can access a system for phone utilization to reach lawyers. Jesus doesn't think he has a prayer. Jesus is in Gitmo, where Americans ruin a man's balance for life with a garden hose. Jesus is in Gitmo with Keiko and Hisako, with Juan and Jamar. Unlike Kilroy, Timothy McVeigh was never there. Jesus is in Gitmo with Elian Gonzalez without documents. Jesus is our guest at Naval Station Guantanamo Bay. No recordings are allowed. No, I can't tell you how that's pronounced. And if you'll forgive me, I'm going to end with 2 love poems because tomorrow is our 28th wedding anniversary. In the kitchen. A day alone in the house. A school day without work. To catch up on laundry, put up the screens, mop the floors. We warm the cool room, lighting the stove, bringing out the mixing bowl, putting butter in your shirt to soften. And I envy it, taking the warmth of your skin. Then you cream together the butter and sugar, add the intoxicants of vanilla, and with your finger taste the mixture. How I want to be a spoon. For the golden sweetness you are like the concoction you whip into the firm peaks before you fold in the flour, scrape, clean the bowl, and let me lick the beaters. As cookies cool on kitchen racks, I suggest a nap, and when you reply, but you're not really sleepy, I respond with kisses and say softly, neither am I, my love. Again, thank you so much for listening. I appreciate having me. This poem is called The Supplicant That's Lost. You were in the shower when I get home at a very late hour, smoky fuel bars. And I slip in beside you under the water and marvel at the smooth second skin liquid moving over your body. You like your showers hot at the point of the skull, and the terrain of your skin, its rises and valleys, are traced by the water like any natural river, with eddies and bars that scarlet heat, mapping a desire of the sea. You whisper your part of our secret greeting, and I mouth the reply, and embrace you like a mystic, clutching a brazier of coals to induce a vision, and a steam rising through your neck is holy smoke. Maybe it's that which catches in my throat. Without turning, you lean into my arms, and I kiss your neck, while the tavern smoke comes alive in the air and blurs my vision, leaving my lips to tread blindly down the mystic bridge of your shoulder until the tumbling water is suddenly in my mouth, leaving between us like the sparks of fire or electricity. I drink you in, and the profane water of the city is first a well, tapping into the coffee shop, those late nights we studied there in grad school, and then, a fountain, a present moment, a life spring of water flowing over your shoulder.
Maybe I'm gonna get you back out there. Legislator. Say again, officially.
Chuck, I've got this with me, just in case.
Yeah, just there
I
it is.
can't find the bio, which is entirely possible. Chuck, why don't you tell the nice people about yourself?
I'll do that.
Bio, yeah.
That'd be great. I'm ready.
Tell them.
Well,
Who are you?
should I come up?
Yeah, you can.
Well, I mean, then I would read, right?
Come on.
Come on. Let me grab some of my books on the way for
Now,
myself.
I have one of Chuck's books here. This is called Final. Beautiful book.
That's an original Todd Farapacek artwork on the cover.
Yes. He's got how many books?
There are 3 books that are, I'm gonna read from each of these, and then 3 new poems. These are all for sale. They're $10 each, or all 3 for 25.
So I'm just gonna tell you what I know about Chuck.
Yeah.
Aside from being the author of these books, which I have, I own all of them. They're all fun. Chuck is sort of an advocate for something he calls fun poetry. I want to describe poetry. I'm gonna ask him about it later.
Okay, well, it's poetry that's fun. I understand it. Fun to hear, fun to read, fun to write. not silly, but you know, play, like play. Yeah.
Chuck is also a psychiatrist.
That's
trade, so
That's
that's
true.
the fun part. Yes.
Child specialist.
Yes, child specialist. So there you go. Play. What else can I say about Chuck? Chuck is the former poet laureate of Erie. Are you the county? Were you the county?
Yes,
He's like two
yes.
poets laureate Erie. Why?
We had a series of poets laureate for a while. There were 7. I was the poet laureate of Erie County, Pennsylvania from 2018 to 2021. Thank you.
That's a good long time.
I kept the seat warm during the beginning of COVID, during most of it. Then, so that extended my stay.
And he is a sort of indefatigable promoter of poetry and arranger of events and friends to poets everywhere. And he's a widely traveled poet like some of the other poets in anything else I need to say? Just a good guy.
Thank you. That's always good.
Yes. And
Yeah.
we've eaten together in New York City and other places.
Yes, yes.
So Chuck likes to eat a good dinner, so I think after this, anybody who wants to join us for a good dinner? Chuck, it's on Chuck. Chuck Joy.
That was the best intro ever. I guess I'll try to sit, but I don't know, we'll see. So, I do want to read from each one of these books, and then I have some new ones, including a special surprise. So, first of all, let's take them in order, chronological order. The oldest of these books is this book called Said the Growling Dog. And I'd like to start, George and I have known each other for a while, and I believe our paths first crossed in an Italian-American sort of context. Is that?
No, I came to Erie to interview people. You were the first person who greeted and interviewed people in a restaurant.
Yes.
Thai restaurant.
Yes.
Back in 2013.
Yes, you're right. You invited me to a session of the Italian-American Studies Association in Toronto, Ontario, so that's dominating.
And you killed it, absolutely.
But I remember the interview very well. So, however, along the lines of Italian Americana, I thought I'd start with a poem from this book called Pizza Land. And it comes with an epigraph for Jose. Pizza Land. My old man was from Pizza Land, that various stretch of urban New Jersey. This is fiction, of course. When I was little, we would visit his sisters, Short Street, near the waterfront, where they all lived. The backyard, a rectangle, surrounded by buildings. I remember the kids' table, plates of spaghetti, red sauce, and meatballs, flavored with mint. The cousins, the laughter, such sly jokes, our fathers, their suspenders, those Italian words, hilarious. My mother was American, a German. The older I became, the more I came to realize by the time I got to high school, I was half Italian. My closest friends were half Italian too. Eddie, Gary, Johnny D. We made a little club. Mostly we watched television. None of us really Italian. I went to college not very far away, where the first thing I was taught was stay away from Pizza Land. They will kick your ass. What a mistake. How much better, how much more I would have learned had I carried my poetry books to the Luna Cafe, they called it Pete's, reading Bukowski and Yeats over salad and minestrone and even ravioli when I had a little money. Thank you. Any other wonderful poems in that volume? The next one is called Percussive. I believe this is one of your publishers too, Turning Point Press.
So
It's,
kind of worked that.
yeah. So I'm proud of that. And, I do love New York, and it's no secret that if I had had an invitation to go to New York City, I probably wouldn't have been able to accept this wonderful invitation to come to Dansville. But I didn't, so here I am.
We probably pay better.
Well, right, and yet I have the opportunity to bring New York City to us with a poem from this book. I'm going to read the first two parts of this poem called Off Broadway. And it has an epigraph. It says, upon attending Sagra del Libro. Did you ever attend Sagra del Libro?
Not that I remember.
I did. Here is the story. Two parts. Part one.
It's the Iowa saga.
Yeah, I should
Oh,
ask you
there.
too. Yeah, I don't know. See if you were at this one. Night bus to New York. Let me start over. One, night bus to NYC. Already the community of strangers sharing the luxury of passenger ship. Egalitarian, all steerage. Arrival, 8th Avenue, gray, almost dawn, buzzing floodlights, music, street legal, note for note. Remember that time in Hollywood? Bob Dylan booed from the stage. More blues, they were yelling, the audience. Play the blues. Never happened. All those hecklers dead now anyway. Me, I've got plenty of blues. A little blues is plenty for me, too. Marisa Tomei, Bruno Kirby, a cast of 60, filling the basement of a church, most precious blood, with books. Some authors with 12 books, many authors with several books, almost none with only one. Some books unloaded from stuffed suitcases, leather raviolis. Other books, their portraits on posters, displayed on card tables. Slender books stood on mahogany easels. Lots of books. Books in small piles. Books spread in fans. Every book with its author, men and women, some quite senior, seated in folding chairs or standing around. Some authors with helpers, husbands, daughters, authors, a gathering of authors, stylish characters, sophisticated ladies, serious gentlemen. Many authors already acquainted. They read each other favorite passages, the room warm with low chatter. One floor up, around the corner, Canal Street, thick with people, sidewalks crowded, crossings jammed, people with time, people with money. Downstairs, books, lovely books, a chorus of books, ranks of gleaming faces, ready to sing their silent songs. The aisles clear, the basement hushed. You could hear the authors breathing. Authors, their thoughts. Finally, a child, a slim lad of maybe 11, dressed in a vest and a cap, made his way to the head of the room, set up a microphone, adjusted it to his short height, sang. He sang a series of songs in Italian, closing to generous applause. Thank you. And the third book, a few copies over there, or you can approach me directly. Just be gracious. This is called Vinyl, and this is this I had this in Frostburg last year, and I'm glad to have it here. I have a new book coming out soon. Well, by Christmas anyway. So I have an Italian American poem in here too. But I'm not going to read it because I want to read this other poem because George is here. I want to share this in the presence of you.
We've achieved time or past.
Yeah, I'm sure. I know, I'm just visiting. I know that I go.
We can talk later.
Well, let's talk about this poem, George. I hope everybody enjoys this. This is a kind of, it's sort of ekphrastic in a way, not the typical way, but you'll see. This is called Dr. Rick's Cafe Americain. A 19th hole, the big hospital across the street. Dr. Rick, always wearing the white jacket. Most doctors, and there were a few, they left their white jackets back in their lockers. Dr. Louie, at the bar near Sam's piano, nursing a gin fizz. Nursing. His hearing that word brought a thin smile. Suddenly, of all the bars in all the cities of the Great Lakes region, enters a woman Dr. Louis knew as Mrs. Laszlo, a patient, a beautiful woman who glowed so brilliantly. She made the world around her seem to be in black and white. The enchanting woman walked right up to Dr. Louis. He rose to greet her, happy to see her. His last treatment, exactly what she asked for. This patient would be so pleased. Instead, she spoke with anger. You're a fraud, she accused, pointing her chin toward his, her eyes glittering with rage. You're the elephant in the room. Dr. Louis appeared stunned. Not like in the movie Casablanca, genuinely stunned. He collapsed back against his bar stool, managing a sincere, if staccato, reply. Backed by the full faith and confidence of medical science, I'm shocked. Shocked. Thank you. So, kind of depressing. Did anybody feel that was kind of depressing? Okay, good. I like to challenge the definition of depressing. So there's a movie, it's nowhere near here, and okay, so the Italian American part leads right directly from and to my father. May his memory be a blessing. And so I've noticed recently that I did have a mother. I referred to her earlier, and here's a poem that it's from mom. It's called Desk and Chair. Smooth surface, cafe au lait, the desk, a column of drawers, two angled legs, the original chair, its padded seat, its top rail curved, and enveloping wing. Desk and chair, once my mother's, her office, a narrow room upstairs. She wrote checks and filed papers, many papers pinned to bulletin boards. Today, that desk had a wide window, a nice view from that desk, where I write these lines. The generations build upon each other. Thank you. Well, this is great. I'm really happy to be in Dansville. This is a wonderful town. I had a great time the last time I visited. And I'm having a great time right now. And it's a nice opportunity to read new poems. And this one is very new. It's called Going to Church. Stone steps, temporary sanctuary for souls sleeping rough. A carved wooden door pulled open, ecclesiastical architecture. An apparent family in one pew, they could be from Mexico. Maya, Dad, Mama cradling a tiny girl, Big Brother looking stunned. Further along, ranks of Irish girls, white shirts, green sweaters and skirts. A small parade approaching from the side. A vested altar boy blinking. An Irish girl, a book raised in both hands. Two altar boys managing lit candles. A tall black-robed man under a Monsignor's cap. A much older, darker man in red and gold, chasuble and mitre. A talented choir begins to sing, strong voices, often braided. Music fills the marbled interior. The liturgical procession dispersed around the altar. A woman enters in the back, a lovely woman, obviously troubled. She stands at the center aisle, then sits in the last bench, engaging in prayer as many do. This one addressing an enveloping presence, repeating the words learned so young, then leaving them to simply be receptive, open to the universe, to love. Later, lunchtime, a handsome man standing at a pizza counter, his red plastic tray waiting for a plain slice, his gaze directed away from the pizza toward the windows and the intersection outside. He thinks he recognizes her, that woman from the church. Thank you. It's a pretty new poem. But this next one is really new. And I am just thrilled to have the opportunity to read this. I knew she might be coming and she's here. Last night, I had the opportunity to host a poet who's here tonight, Jessica Gamiani, over there. Hello, it's wonderful to see you. It's like having another jazz musician in the audience. So how about we give Jessica a little hand? I know you've been here before. This poem is so new. I just wrote it for the fact that you might be here. So here it goes, and I'm going to direct it right at you. This is called That Exact Location. Remember, this is poetry. All we can see is these words. That exact location, the view from the pizza counter, the inside tables dark, mostly empty, the open windows, the outside tables, the green, red, and white sign, Belmont Pizza, the street corner, the streets, East 187th Street and Arthur Avenue, not far from Fordham University, borough of the Bronx. The camera faced away from the pizza, toward the open windows and the intersection. Cars, motorcycles, pedestrians, Luna Cafe across the street. That exact location. And you're telling me the grandmother you love lives right there? Wow, thank you. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. This is going to be fun. I really appreciate it.
Chuck, can I get you to
Yes.
stay up there? Greg, can I get you to go up there? Even though I don't want to find you guys one chair, you can steal another chair.
This is a photo op? What is
No,
it?
no, this is you being, interviewed.
Oh,
About 45 people. And. You can.
Or was it?
Steal this chair.
I'm just saying. We've been in cars for a long time.
We have.
Just being married today.
Right. So I was gonna have a chair now.
How many of you have been to Erie, Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
This is a kind of an unusual direction from Erie, but that's great.
Splash from beauty.
Yeah, that's the place.
Yeah.
There's an actual beach just a little bit further.
There, Wildomir.
There's one here.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of poetry too.
So any questions or comments people have about these poetry, the poets, Erie, or wherever? Feel free to jump right in.
The city of Erie is not like a big fruit salad. the street names,
There are streets.
Oh, yeah.
I remember, I was there for, a missions trip when I was in high school. And the one girl on the missions trip was like, you can get everywhere from Peach Street. And we were driving through the city one time, and all the street names are named after fruit. It's like they want to make fruit salad.
And also, ones are. What is it about fruit and Erie, and tell us why we should come to Erie.
Well,
I love Erie. So
There's a lot of poetry. It's already drawn you there already. We have poetry every week in it. How many places have you been where there's poetry every week?
Multiple,
It's been that way for years. Different leaders, different venues. That we once had a whole club that was dedicated to poetry. Maybe you've heard about this before. It was called Poets Hall. We had weekly poetry at a bookstore. We had it at another bookstore. We had it at another bookstore where the leader who the facilitator of the poetry group would have us announce our names and say, I'm a poet before we read our poem. So I would say like Chuck Joy, I'm a poet. Does that remind you of anything? Like with 12 steps? I'm probably not. You ever do that? You ever attend one of those meetings and say, I'm a poet? A young woman whose name escapes when she left town. Right after.
It's been 4 months since I was in that kind of thing.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
No, I think that was confession. Different. That's like very many more steps. What about you, Greg? What do you have with that?
Yeah. What do you want to say about Erie? Very good.
I think it is a wonderful place. I like the natural stuff, the Presque Isle, Winter Gorge, these kind of areas. It's not too far from Allegheny Mountains. So,
Yes, it's got that Presque Isle. Can you describe what Presque Isle is for those who don't know?
yeah, sure. Actually, unless I was the state park for sure for a second. It's a 3,200 acre state park on a 7-mile sand spit. With 7 miles of beaches, there's an ecological preserve there, a series of lagoons, because it was built by successive sand spits that the lake put down, and they got anchored by succession. And so there are lagoons and ponds in between the peninsula, which stretches out like an arm. It's Pennsylvania's only natural harbor. So Pennsylvania's only lake harbor. And it's wonderful from the neck of it, which is where Waldemere is, where there's a pretty well-known topped wooden roller coaster for the country. And then from there on, it's State Farm. So it's absolutely gorgeous.
It's a good birding area too.
It is,
Yeah.
yes. It's actually an important bird area, IVA, official.
Yeah,
So-
that's someone, my son would go up, go north to it in the spring. He lives in Pittsburgh now, so.
Oh, yeah.
I think we're required to do that. All the people in Pittsburgh have to make the journey to Erie. Yes, of course. We all learn that too.
What?
Do you know what it means?
I do.
Well, go ahead, tell us.
Means almost an island,
Yeah.
and it just changes every single year, almost, every 5 years.
It's subtle. The sand moves gently to the east.
Yeah.
A few times its history in the last couple of centuries has been an island where the lake cut through the peninsula, and they kept it where it is, so it doesn't drift too far. But there's a part of it called Gull Point. If you're a birder, Gull Point's this kind of huge sand spit. All of that's been built since the 50s by the lake. This used to end at what was called Budney Beach, named after a fellow who swam Canada over. And that's where he came to land. So.
Since we're on geography, place, I know, because I've interviewed you too, that you're from Oklahoma.
I am
My wife is for things that although she spent like almost 10 years in Oklahoma school. Is there anything, what's it like to move from a place like Oklahoma to a place like Erie? How are they? I know this is a big question.
Yeah, well, and I spent 10 years in Mississippi for graduate school, so there's a little, buffer zone there. But I did spend like all my young years in Oklahoma and then went to Mississippi, and then came here. I think Erie is, in some ways like where I grew up. As it has relative extremes of temperatures and good vistas, you can see pretty far. The wind figures heavily into our everyday lives, so I think it's, yeah. But I really enjoy it. I like having all 4 proper seasons. The 10 years we were in Mississippi, it would get in the wintertime below freezing, maybe a handful of days. That in those 10 years, it snowed twice. So, and then we moved to Erie. And when I was
It's, twice in July.
oh, I said, I've got this interview in this place called Erie, Pennsylvania. And I said, I've never heard of Erie, Pennsylvania, but I've heard Lake Erie. And I know this thing called the lake effect snow. Because everyone who's been in Oklahoma a while comes out an amateur meteorologist. And so there's this thing called lake effect snow. Are you really sure about this? But we loved it. Yeah. We were happy we did that.
It's the center of sport fishing.
We're in Mississippi.
Oxford. University of Mississippi, Oxford. Yeah. It's about 9 miles south.
Offer,
Exactly right. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, for a couple of years, I was assistant curator at William Faulkner's house, Roanoke, which is kind of a museum now.
my dad was from Pontotoc,
On top, yeah.
and one of my cousins once decided to try to map, look off the county,
Yeah.
out to Pontotoc County. And it fits.
Oh, yeah.
That's he was writing about our family.
Yeah, yes. Nobody was safe. Right, exactly.
I'm gonna tell you, Greg, I think you've got 1 or 2 homes of on top.
On top?
On top, this is where we got cats from. It's just right outside.
So it's three.
Right, yes.
Could you say a little bit about the publisher that you do? What's the name of the press again? And
Oh, yeah.
about that?
Poets Hall Press, C and I have been doing this, since Poets Hall existed. C. Williams was also poet laureate of Erie County for a while, and he used the seed money from that to start publishing chapters of people who would, be often at Poets Hall. Poets Hall was a place about this size, maybe a little deeper, and every Friday night it would be full of people, and all we did there was read poetry. It really became its own kind of self-perpetuating incubator of poetry. A lot of poets came there and polished their craft, and so we started publishing these chat books. And then since Poets Hall has ended, just because it's hard to keep something like that going, he wasn't making any money at it. And C was the one renting CD at Poets Hall, and then he and I together in Poets Hall Press. And it is sporadic. That's a fair adjective. We were supposed to have one come out in December, and it did not happen because he's kind of in processing, I would say. So it's and neither of us. We don't do it for. It's nonprofit in the most severe terms you could imagine, and so it's just whenever we can vote.
We call it resurgent. It's resurgent.
Yeah, one hopes. Now that baseball season has started again, C has come out of the shell.
I know, yeah, we can talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark.
Wanted to ask Chuck, I heard a lot of dialogue in some of your poems, so you wanna talk about the excitement or whatever your attraction is to two people conversing back and forth?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's probably emphasized because I enjoy dialogue so much. It's kind of theatrical. I think a lot of my poems are trying to be movies or just interactions among people, and it's nice to bring those kind of things in. I enjoy it very much.
Do you catch bits of other people's conversations and sort of say very quickly, I gotta use that, or it's going into a poem somehow?
I can't say that hasn't happened, but generally the dialogue emerges from the poem, so it's sort of like everything else is kind of a surprise to me a little bit. Now, every poem has an idea, so I might have heard something and bring it to it, but a lot of times the dialogue appears from the act of writing.
can I ask?
So you're safe?
No,
I was just saying,
no,
some people are safe around to talk around.
That's right, yeah, just watch, right, can't believe.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna tell you this is a great compliment in my opinion. I can go to several different states and run into people who can do a really almost spot on impersonation of Chuck Joy doing a poem.
I knew they were good at that.
So how would you describe your performance style? How does it connect to your poem? You may have already kind of given us a hint. We'll talk about dialogue, but how would you say you approach performing a poem?
It's simple to me. It's just to bring the lines to people's ears with their meaning, embodying their meaning. So the tone and the timing, I organize the poem so that it reads literally one line at a time, and it sort of reads itself. So all I have to do is try to bring it to life. It's like I owe it to the poem to have it speak. I started to write for the page, and I enjoyed that. But the day came when I wrote a poem. It was called Another Erie, and I didn't want to wait for that experience of sending it out and maybe it'll be published. So I wanted to read it. I mean, I felt I needed to read it. I didn't want to read it. I have a lot of stage anxiety. I don't enjoy it. I still don't understand how I got here. So I can only explain it so far. But that's how I feel to speak it. I try to be transparent between the poem and myself. And I love hearing the silence between the lines and the sound of them. Yes.
I would just say, having read your book, I can hear your voice just reading the poems, which I think is also a great compliment.
I think it's a strength. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Do you have the poem Another Erie with you?
I probably don't. That was a very early poem. I probably have it in my car out there. I can do a little bit of it, but I'll probably stop when it starts to stumble. It goes, there is another Erie that I visit in my sleep. I've been there 3 times already, and boy, was I shocked and disappointed to discover I was dreaming. This other Erie, it's intensely urban, filled with people in the buildings where they live, 4, 5 walk-up stories above the well-worn streets. The first place there I went was on the east side. This was the shopping district, all kinds of stores, women in furs, traffic, taxis. The next time there I went, it was still a warm October, and I found another cool neighborhood around the corner from the new car lots on State Street. Here there were dark and smoky restaurants crowded with night hawks discussing the weather, and it was raining. That's
Greg, not to let you get away, Chief. Science and love. I noticed there's a lot of science, and I couldn't help but notice you read love poems.
Yeah.
Those are 2 very different subjects of poetry, and I know, I wanted to look about that, but what subjects are, but do you find yourself writing differently about, say, something scientific versus writing a love poem? Finding a way into those things, finding different ways into those things, or you just saying? Detail.
I don't know, I don't think I do. When I find my way to a poem, it's either image driven or sound driven. It's either a rhythm or a particular tonal of sounds that I want to follow. Or it's an image I want to follow. And whatever that is, that's where it comes from, that's where it goes. The poem that I read, Nostalgia for Kenneth Starr, is of sound quality, but some of the ideas that were I was thinking of at the time, I don't think we would recognize ourselves if we could see ourselves from, say, 2001. If we looked at our country, looked around, we wouldn't recognize the place. if we pay attention at all to politics, if we didn't, we might not. But, that kind of like, disconnect between what we used to consider important and what we tolerate now, just was what I was thinking about, and so that provided the subject, but the poem itself came from sounds. I think that's just what happens, synergy between either image and or sound and whatever my impulse is at the time.
You guys find the part where I told you.
No, the impulse is there. I'm trying to be not too embarrassed.
I do like that. It's hard to be standing next to Greg because his love poems are really strong. The ones you heard tonight, in fact, I'll just say right here on stage, I'm going to send that to the iconic anthology. Classic. Very iconic. So anyway,
Do you want to, are you still taking submissions for this anthology? Tell me.
Sure, yeah, Main Street Break books, anybody familiar with Main Street Break? There's a lot of anthologies happening, and Main Street Break has determined to publish an anthology of poems related to the North Coast region between Buffalo and Toledo, the South Shore of Lake Erie area. And they asked me to edit it, but that's not happening in the submission information, but it's open for submissions at Main Street Ray. If you have a poem that reflects your life experience visiting or living in that area between Buffalo and Toledo, or just talking about it in the poem, please send it. No, the Main Street Ray site has, go through some
submission site.
Yeah.
George was trying to get in, you know, by the way.
And that's the editor of Main Street Ray is Scott Douglas, and he told me, I'm new at this. He said, John, people are going to try to get it to you. They're going to try to get around it. Don't do
George
it.
just did.
Yeah, I said, it's wonderful how George is amplified. It's really great.
My anthology. Any other questions or thoughts? Used to be one of the quotes.
Just want to let you guys know, my husband just went to Erie and helped fix you guys' railroad too. Well, okay.
Helen, thank you. That's great. What was wrong with them?
He's a switch machine operator, so if the machines won't switch the tracks, y'all will to right.
Right, exactly.
So,
Yeah.
right, making sure that is.
That's a characteristic of Erie, just to conclude. I mean, the railroads, and it's on the main line. It trains all the time. You can hear them constantly. You probably hear one every once in a while, real clear here, but there it's constant. Sometimes it's hard to sleep.
We
All the
can take lessons and.
I love it. It's great.
You guys can do a lot of events in here. Is there one coming up? Tell people about next couple of months, or I know you have a festival, is it September?
Yes, it's actually September 13th, and it should be good. It's going to have books for sale as well as performances and other features at Frontier Park all day. Outdoor great location, tents.
Is that strictly poetry festival?
No, it's literary. But as you know, we have poetry every week. The name of the place is Cafe 710. If you want to read a poem in here, you can do it on a Tuesday night, every week. And then there's monthly events at Werner Books. There's another thing to share, Werner Books. Your husband wants to go to the coolest bookstore here, and that's it. There are other good ones, but the events are mostly at Werner's.
Yeah, the beach, or hit some of the great wine shops.
Yes, you can eat it there either too.
I expect to be hired by the city of
Also,
Chamber of Commerce, right?
on the second Wednesday of the month, at Mercer's, I run a small poetry workshop, so. It starts at 6, it's on the second Wednesday of the month every month. It's at our old main building, which is like a casual workshop, 7 to 14 people. So you bring about, a dozen copies of your poems, share it, get your, get opinions from other poets.
Love this idea of a brochure, budget. Oh, thank you, folks. I have lost complete track of time, so I'm just gonna take 5 and come back and do open mic stuff. If you haven't signed up for this, please do. You know, 3 to 5 minutes.
Time, anybody like anything from the coffee bar? I'm sitting here.
Yeah. Yes. That's what I just. Yeah. Right. Yeah, I don't.
My brother comes up with like breakfast, apparently they're closed on Mondays, so we got their own. So we pushed them around, so I never pushed us again. And then you want to check it for the channel. And yeah, actually, you can. We went there. It is still off. It used to be an old. From 100 years ago. Yeah, it is so. And so they have breakfast.
Yeah.
So I heard that from my. They ate it, they planted strawberries for breakfast. Now they're at. The Jackson Valley was simple.
No, I mean,
And vegetable. They had. Had a smoke, they've been.
Probably not so.
That sounds very good to me. That sounds like everything I'm hearing, they all put together. Like, as a conversation, a lot and. It's just one of the. I'll be pretty happy.
Got banner.
Yep.
I had some. Yeah. He was, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome back. We have a full list tonight. And maybe a special guest. First reading, I think Kelly, where's Kelly?
Yes.
Kelly, have you been here before?
No, never done this before.
Welcome. How about a round of applause for Kelly Well?
Hello. You hear me?
Very well.
Okay.
What?
I've never done anything like this before. But friends encouraged me to do this, so I'm gonna start out with a very short poem. Words that came to me as I was winding my way through a labyrinth in the south of France. I met a butterfly today, bold and bright. She whispered in my ear, "Follow me to the forest light." If you'll indulge me, I have one more poem. That I was sitting here realizing where I was at McFadden's Coffee. And my husband has passed. He passed on 13 years ago, but he's a wonderful writer. And he wrote a poem around 2004 about a coffee mug. And if you'll indulge me, I'd like to read it for you. The title is Chipped But Not Broken, Life from a Mug's Perspective. We met in a coffee house. Fate placed me before you. That day, the void filled me with warmth. My insides stirred, and I was brimming with anticipation. When you laced your fingers around me, I sensed we were made for each other. At first, you approached tentatively, perhaps having been burned before. Your cool breath floated softly above me. Your firm grasp drew me closer. Your lips pressed gently against me. I was lifted upwards. You smiled with satisfaction and gazed lovingly into my murky depths. Each passing moment revealed more of me, but soon my glass seemed half empty. Your intimate conversation strayed towards another. It was then I realized you were gradually consuming me. In a matter of time, we bottomed out, leaving a cold vessel. We savored the last drops of our time together. You left without a goodbye. I sat abandoned at the table, feeling empty and used. How will I handle life's daily ride without you?
I'm gonna walk over to our next hospital reader and say, Melissa. All right. Thank you, Melissa.
So this is where I first read ever. First love. And I'm not gonna do, I've been doing trauma writing, but I'm not gonna read any trauma. Kelly, if you could let me know not to over 3 weeks. Yeah, well, so I went back to my first love, children's books. And I wrote, when I was writing The Secret when I was in the call, I wrote children. So I kind of shied away from that field through poetry, whatever, so, and this is inspired by all my trips to New York City, and, just gonna read a little bit of it. It's called Cat, Rat, and Miss Pigeon. On a warm, wet, rainy spring day, this is very new, so it's not, so I'm just throwing it out there. On a warm, wet, rainy day, Kelly Fields held tight to her mom's hand as they descended down the subway steps to board the first subway train ride. Kelly held tight to the other hand with her yellow subway card, now bent a little too much for her mother to swipe it through her card reader. A man in a yellow black vest noticed the mom, and the child struggling to unbend the card and wave them through the iron gate that slammed shut behind them. Kelly's mom thanked the man so many times, the man was a little embarrassed. Please, ma'am, it's okay, we opened the gate for my neighbor struggle. He skipped away to help the next person in need. Kelly waved to him even though his back was to her. Kelly and her mom held tight grips as they passed more people than they could count. Kelly tried to stop and listen to the beautiful music being played by an old man positioned in the corner of the tunnels. The music echoed and led Kelly right to his eyes. His smile was tender and toothless. She tugged at her mom to go left so she could see him better and showed him how she had just lost 2 teeth of her own. She was curious how much the tooth fairy left under his pillow. No, Kelly, we have to get quickly to the office. We do not have time to stop today. Another time, we will let you hear the wonderful things and the magical things the subway tunnels have to offer, and the secret hidden things as my grandma showed me as a child. Kelly knew not to tug back, kept a tight grip onto her mom's hand. They turned right and then down the steps through a long tunnel and down another set of stairs. Kelly's mom wiped the sweat from her brow. People bumped into them many times as they traveled through the dim lit corridor. The lights started to flicker and the buzzing noise became as loud as the train. This is it. Red line 5, Kelly. What did I tell you? You get separated. Wait. Wait and what? Kelly? Stay put and wait, just where you am. You know where we get separated, now come back. Kelly's eyes started to swell with tears. Oh, Kelly, it's okay. Remember what I told you about what happened when I got lost with Grandma down here? We didn't have a plan, but I sat down and waited and she came back. They rode the train all the way uptown to the doctor's office. Kelly never understood why her mom cried the whole ride back. She didn't even have time, or she didn't even have to try to tug on her hand. To hear the man playing on the way back, there was no man, and there was no music at all. The next time Kelly rode the subway train was 2 years later. Her aunt pulled hard, a little too hard on her hand. It's too tight, Anthony. I'm sorry, Bug. I just don't want to lose you with all the people in the different tunnels that go this way and that. It's okay, Aunt May. Mom taught me the last time if you split up, I'm supposed to know. We're just to wait. Her eyes welled up again. I miss her too, Aunt May sighed. Hey, Kelly, did your mom ever tell you about the time we got separated down here with Grandma? Your mom was so brave, and I just sat down and cried. She could not get me up for anything.
Guys are well aligned machine. Now we have someone who is come to us from Rochester, our neighbor, or Mr. Wayne Wilder. Who I have heard you read before, I'm pretty sure I have. But not here. It's exciting. Wayne Wilder.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be back here. Wanted to read 2 poems. The first is The Lobster Roshi. A lobster's simple patience would deal easily with our greed. Its nether claw take hold our ancient fear of power, our well-fed risk-benefit assessments. Weigh in its battle claw and bang the 2 together till they rang and burst or crushed them outright, who knows which. Give me eyes on stalks that rode, lobster eyes on stalks outlandish that do not long to comprehend or not bemused that we wring our hands. A lobster's simple patience would deal easily with our greed. The tides of our despair would break on its obstinate knees, buttressed as they are in the packed mud in the basement of the world. And you read which is at the bottom of the pie, of course. Oh, here it is, merry-go-round. Their Arabian necks bowed by brute force into bridles, saddles, and stirrups, fixed beyond all rebellion, bewildered with confounding pomp and heraldry, round and around the proud carven beasts, circular the pumping music, circular the way, and circular the world, and bright, so bright the champing congregation, their brazen lances threatening and unison confusion, upraised in outrageous unison against the high and peaked and wooden roof white above the dust. The calliope ponders its way to speed, tambourines, bells, clangor, wisdom's bass off key, the machineries of joy, all the wheezing, crying mass, whirls and gyrates, pounds and thumps, amplifier of children's eyes. The slavering throng rounds the corner into Borneo, and amidst a host of golden standards with the children astride, and oh, look, the children are striding.
Led by sound. Next up is Mr. John Beyond. Right here.
I still come on.
Oh, thank
Well, first of all, Kelly, I relate to you. I started doing this because I have social anxiety. So as you were up here reading, I was like, I still don't know how she feels. So, we now live in a world where Peter Pumpkin Eater actually ate his wife because pumpkins are now too expensive. And the dish and the spoon had to travel to Canada to get married because dishes and spoons aren't supposed to get married. Mary, quite contrary, had to sell her garden because with food prices skyrocketing, who could afford flowers? Sally sat by the seashore searching for seashells, but Sally couldn't find any seashells after she sifted through the trash. And even though Jack Spratt could eat no fat, that's all he could afford after he saw how much grocery prices have gone up. The little old woman who lived in the shoe with all those kids is now doing 10 to 20 years after being arrested by ICE. The big bad wolf didn't die when he fell in the chimney. He was pardoned for eating 2 of the 3 little pigs and the little Red Riding Hood. Up is down, down is up. Hold on for the ride. At least we know we shot.
Next up is Mr. Bart White. See that? Thank you. Another watch of staring. Another watch of staring.
Sorry, I wanted to get a dialogue. There we go. Dialogue form for you guys. Hi guys. Gonna do 3 short poems. This was called Green Light, set in New York. Young cabby lost late at night in the Bronx, flips pages of his 5-borough street guide at a stop. Finally, his passenger breaks silence. Lights green, let's boogie, Arkansas. I'm not from Arkansas, he gives a curt reply, then uncertain as to where. He puts it in gear and goes. She scooches near to him. Don't get mad, baby. You're from somewhere I know. I did these poems on cards and I think I can recite this one. I've done a lot of them and as a prelude to a petition that I'm passing around, I'll tell you about the petition at the end of it. How hot is your heat? How hot, I say? Are you a little flame? Can you lukewarm some water in a pot? Or could you burn with blowtorch roar? Might you breathe as dragons do? Would you bring the furnace heat 5,000 degrees, make hard glass run like lava? What fuel do you need? Are there dials to turn? Can you light it like the very sun? Will rise and shine. Now's your time. Our land darkening day by day. Bring your light, fire and light, everyone. You and you and you. Burn, burn. So, thanks for that. I've got a petition I've been circulating. It already got 120 signatures. I sent it down to the field office of ICE in New Orleans. There's a director there. Her name is Melissa Harper. I want to start a regular correspondence with Melissa. I sent it registered mail. It's for the release of a Columbia grad student, Mahmoud Khalil. You may have followed this story somewhat, or be a little bit aware of it. He was involved in the campus protests on Columbia. And pro-Palestinian and stop the bombing in Gaza. That's his basic message. He's a green card holder. He got picked up with no preamble. He is a married man and his wife's a U.S. citizen and they're new parents. And the part that got me started on this was the fact that when his child was born about 4 weeks ago, no compassion was released to go see that, be present at that moment. So that's heartfelt. Here's the petition. I'll leave it around and you can talk to me after. Thanks. Got one more point and I'll close out. It's called animal behavior. Animal behavior. The great white asserts primacy of hunger. No right or wrong. It eats the seal and the seal pup, knocking mother senseless with blunt curves, circling back the clothes on the body, rending flesh and bone with saws of its teeth, with admirable dispatch, baby seal in one gulp. If you've no stomach for bloodbaths, avert your eyes. Closer to home, on any given day, that other animal kills and kills with absence of conscience, like the shark, but not for hunger's sake.
Bart, you may have noticed is from the southern part of Rochester. Walt. What's that? Walt Franklin, everybody.
I have one poem here, and it is it's from local history. It's not a very hopeful piece, but it does reflect an incident that occurred in the Canandaigua Village in Allegheny County, New York. And it goes from a time way back 200 years ago today. The Seneca people of the Haudenosaunee, they were at a point where they were all being forced pretty much to exit their homes, the homeland. And they were passing through the council house at this time, and the council house was a focal point for their lives, pretty much. And that council house today stands, has been moved to Lebanon State Park. This is called Remembering the Old Ones, passing through the council house, Candia Village, circa 1825. They look to now would know you, their creator, for the oneness in their days of feasting, honoring, and mourning, praying that their faith might be renewed, that the drunkenness and pain would vanish, that the eloquent speeches heralding war or peace be held closely and remembered, that the ancient streams and hills would guide them and preserve this house forever. So they thought and spoke. Long beard, little beard, Iokatu, Shango, George Shango, Hudson, Dioannis, Mary Jemison, John Mohawk, Polly Mohawk, Scanoboy, Copperhead, John Shanks, Sungewa, Kinji, Sharp Shin, Bear Hunter, Trim Sharps, Elk Hunter, Chickens, Joe Daw, Powderhorn, George Jakes, Chick Knit, John Jacket, Jesse Tall Chief, William Blackstake, James Shango, Tommy Jimmy, Little David, all passing through the council house beyond the Candia Village. Seneca home, the Genesee of the land sales force or fraudulent. The flow remembered by a poet's son 200 years downriver.
I just love this.
Jeff Levinson, local author, Capitol Monument came out 2020, but I got my start, with poetry. And, it was published when I was in college back in 2009, here, to that. I'm gonna read from, my early work. This one's the completion. Where your loyalty lay, burns the mind, stains the heart. What love might sing beauty, may also steal fire. Slave days, like night, run screaming your soul. A hammer's the innocent. Record the pound of a pulse. Haunting rhetoric. What you create with your blood. A buffer to the passage of time built in your image. Growing a garden of unexpected challenge, procuring a battle of new wills. Long enough to file down your resistances. Hang weights upon your spirit. Cry you the call of the kindred, loose the wolves in the sugar cane. Sleep sweet, vast fields of clover, nestled in the keep of a warm summer earth. Hone your meager defenses to the impending army of winged terror, and recall the scorched year of your birth. I'll summon you into my physical fold like the billowy sweet smell of sun-baked linen in the early spring to the senses of a child, wrapped with the thrill of discovery's delights. Our deficiencies will live as one, double negatives and positives as dictates the physical world. And we are left as one to stand, to mature with time's whispers of evolution, rebirth, decay, finding our splendid unification, caressed with the wane of personal winters, realized as the eve of the lush and succulent, to bloom into rare and coveted security, the affect of genuine love. And wither us then to one another in our autumn's embers of slow fade, blessed with the magic of reminiscence and the completion of an illustrious work. And then I have a super short one. I'm a survivor of human trafficking, and this is one of the ones that I wrote when I first started writing. It's just called Flight. jet fuel dreams, high on altitude and sheer possibility, to awaken upon the new dawn of a once dead subsistence, alive in luminous glory, much to my surprise, hope and excitement in full bloom.
Just wanna just tell people what your books are.
Oh, yeah. 2020, I'll read the little bio here. Meet Jamie. She's a beautiful young divorced single mother who just completed a 4-year course of study in what should be a new world of opportunities. With a college degree, the 2008 stock market crash has leveled the financial world around her. Despite her intelligence and willingness to work hard for her achievements, her ability to draw an income hinges now on what her sexualities were. Take a glimpse into her world of the intersection of sex, money, and power, and the forces that have pressed her to accept herself as a saleable commodity on the sexual black market in America. Spend a day at work with her and with her clients as she asks herself if she's worth more, if freedom in America is real, and if there's a way out. My first work was Jet Fuel Dreams, and both of these are by Shoe Music Press. They're out of Alpharetta, Georgia. And I've just been blessed to get involved in writing, and in the last couple of years also started another project here in the local community. We're opening up a safe house for other women that are exiting trafficking while pregnant or parenting children under the age of 5. So if anybody wants to get involved in that project, please hit me up. You know, we definitely need the help from manpower, so.
Last. Well, last, we'll see about that. Gert. Oh, there's Gert. That's fine. Gert, everybody, around.
So I'm not much of a poem person. But I usually tell jokes because story of my life. But when Jess asked me to come to a poetry slam, I was like, poetry is usually conveying a message, and sometimes it's kind of dark. And I have a traumatic brain injury, and a lot of people don't understand what that all entails. So I figured I'd tell you about it. So my traumatic brain injury happened when I was 8 on January 12th, 1999. And like the line of thinking in the medical world at that time, this was like the internet was a very new thing. I guess the World Wide Web wasn't a thing until March 1991. I predate the internet by 1 year. I predate Google by like 5 years. But the line of thinking back then was that once the human brain is injured, it stops developing. So everybody thought my brain was gonna stop developing at 8 years old. And if that's the case, I am one outstanding 8-year-old. But I lived near Canada, like 3 miles from there is Belfast. Sure. That's where I graduated high school. That's where my car accident was on Route 305. My dad's girlfriend was taking me to school. 305 is the road from Cuba over to Belfast. It hooks up with 19. just saying. Route 19 is like Peach Street and Erie. You can get everywhere from Peach Street. Same one, Route 19. But, so my TBI, like, I have a job at the Goodwill up in Canandaigua. I've been there for like since they opened. I can't remember if it's been 2 or 3 years, but I'm limited on how many hours I can work per week. I gotta stick to working like 12 hours a week. I used to be able to get away with 20 hours a week, but then minimum wage hike and all that stuff, and they limit my hours because I get SSI for my disability. They consider it 100% disabled with a traumatic brain injury, and it's a lot like a prison. Like, human life is about progress, but I'm not supposed to be able to do that, so.
That's why I take you to places like this.
There we go. It's very frustrating, but I have a killer sense of humor. Jess can testify to that, so can Melissa. I trying to think of a funny story.
Tell them about the time I hit that peacock in the van. I know that's funny to you. She's been buying me peacock stuffies ever since I done it.
Yeah, we hit a peacock.
I was driving.
Yeah, well, I don't have a license, so I can't really do that. At least not legally. If I had been driving, we'd have hit something more than a peacock.
I looked at her and I said to her, what do we do? Was that a pet? I couldn't even find it. It bounced off the windshield and then it was freaking gone. There was like a chunk of his butt in the road and that was it. There was a feather stuck in my little windshield wiper. And she said, I don't know, I think you ought to keep driving. You just turn whiter than you usually are.
No, you said should we go back and see if it's okay? And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I wonder what peacock tastes like. But, you know, if we're gonna kill it, let's not waste the body.
Okay, I killed it, vanished. I think like the immaterial is why I didn't.
Yeah. Actually, I was gonna tell you about coffee. Like, at work today, we were talking and I don't really do coffee. I mean, I have a coffee pot, but it's strictly for making ramen. And like steamed veggies and stuff. You have no idea how many things you can make in a coffee pot. Jello. You know, pots are very versatile. One was surviving Motel 6. And I was gonna write a coffee pot cookbook for a Motel 8 survival guide, but in December I ended up staying in a Super 8 motel and they had a microwave. I'm like, we built this idea up and just shoot me down, you know. So all my coffee pot intelligence gone to waste. But I remember when I worked at the Dollar General in Naples, my coworkers, they all drank coffee. So, you know, being the nice person that I am, I bought a coffee pot for the break room. And then I bought a bag of coffee from the Catholic church. And I didn't realize it was whole bean coffee. And we didn't have like coffee bean grinders. at the Dollar General. So I legit sat in the break room for like 4 hours grinding coffee beans with a salt grinder. 4 hours got me one pot of coffee. It's like never again. Never again, dude.
I applaud your determination.
First instance.
First instance. Yes.
And
They have electric ones. You just push the button down.
yeah, I got just an electric one. I found one at the Treasure Trove in Canandaigua, and I was like, I had to buy this just as a matter of principle, because never again with a salt grinder. Not doing it.
Well, call me if you ever have a coffee grinder emergency. I still have.
Absolutely. Well, I've updated my coffee grinding skills. I have one of those like marble rolling pins.
Ooh, smash. What Courtney's not telling anybody is that she's an author of 2 books.
I know. Yeah, really. Another thing, I wrote my first book and published it right before I graduated high school. And I like it was about my first 2 years of high school, and like in 9th grade, like my dad tried to strangle me, so I got moved in with my mom, and my mom said she didn't want me, so got moved in with my best friend, and that lasted for maybe 2 months. And sorry, that wasn't that. And then I got expelled from my school, and so I had to move down to North Carolina where my mom was, and I was down there for like 2 weeks. And on February 2nd, 2005, our house in Belfast, New York, 101 South Main Street, burned down. And it was just a structure fire, but firefighters, their whole vibe is go in and break shit. It's literally Fred Durst. Yeah. And so there was no saving anything in that house. But there was still like a structure of a house there, and like my mom didn't know what to do with it, and she ended up donating it to the town to do a controlled burn on, and they did that over the summer of 2005, and I happened to be in town that weekend, and so I got together with some friends, and we all chipped in for marshmallows, and we went down and roasted marshmallows and I burned that house. And I think that was the beginning of my whole chuck it in the fucking bucket vibe for life. And I mean, excuse my French, but and that summer I also ended up getting in a fight with she wasn't a high school bully because we were the same age. So one of my high school counterparts, I guess, and that got me really pumped up, and I wanted to write a story about it, and thus I wrote my first book. And my second book, which was published in 2018, so 10 years after my first book, was about, so our house burned down in '05, and my mom bought this. The only way I can describe it is a halfway house, cause it was halfway built. And like, there was no insulation, but there was drywall, but it all sat in a pile by the door. It was like a lawn ornament almost. And, but my uncle, who's an alcoholic, my mom paid him to put an addition on, and then she paid him to do the ceiling in the bathroom, and he put a nail through the cold water pipe right above the shower, so it was very dodge the bullet, taking a shower there. But we lived right up County Road 49, so you know, if push comes shove, Jansen River's right at the bottom of the hill. So, yeah. And I remember living there, like, my brother was, he was 2 years older than me, and he drank a lot and did drugs, and all his friends drank a lot and did drugs, so we didn't have a lot of money for food, cause every time my mom would go get food, my mom lived with her boyfriend, so she kind of abandoned us in the box. And, but, Ryan and his friends somehow came up with money for beer every weekend. And, you know, Saturday morning I'd be up 6 a.m. because I'm not a drinker, and I would claim the beer cans and drag them down to a store about a mile away. So make $10 a week. So I have a fairly decent hot can return business now. Like, that's a great thing about knowing a bunch of alcoholics and being friends with them. Thank you, I'm on that way.
I love you, Courtney.
Well. Got nothing to follow that with. Except that if you,
The board's right,
I'm guessing that the peacock got killed on Route 19. Maybe.
No,
We were in Howard, we were lost in Howard, trying to find Pinona,
Yeah.
peacocks,
Yeah.
oh,
I-
wild.
I wanna know, I wanna know.
I found a way.
I wanna invite up someone who has featured here, how many months ago, like 3 months ago? February? Jessica featured here in February, she's fabulous, and she is gonna come and read the whole thing, the whole right now. Jessica, come in.
George, for the warm welcome, I'm so glad to be back here, this is such a wonderful, poetry community. It's just a beautiful thing, people come together like this. It kind of got my start going to open mics, if I hadn't, I probably would have never. But anyway, I was saying to, Chuck last night that I do write about happy things, but I don't actually have any of those really accessible right now. I would love to read Leaving 187th Street for you, but I don't have access to it. But I'll share it with you later.
Great.
I'm gonna read two parts of my chapbook, The American Gun. So some of you have heard it already. I have copies of my car. in case you're interested. So this is part 2. It's a poem in 10 parts. It's called The American Gun. Can you hear me okay? Yes. 2.
My grandfather was a plumber, a foreman, a Democrat, a proud union man. Built like a bull, he hauled cast iron tubs up flights of stairs. When my mother divides his wares, we each receive a mini leather-bound booklet, pages full of rust-red stamps, stamped dues paid, in rows gathered in groups of 4. My mother, she remembers the NRA leaflets would arrive in the mail each month, pages devoted to the pursuit, the chase that is sport. The hunter pumps the rifle, pumps bullets to the chamber, shoots the deer fair game. My grandmother, she cooked it all, venison to squirrel stew. I can still hear my grandfather as he licks his lips, sucks the bones dry. This is part 9 of the American Gun. Very poorly. All right, 9. What is to be said if men salaried with guns, gear, and protections massive, if they too are afraid? If they stand outside Broad Elementary, fumbling over the chain of command, while the shooter shoots the babies inside. The parents in Uvalde had no bodies to claim. Cotton swab to the cheek identifies their remains. I spent most of my time in my apartment these days. If I decide to run out for a carton of milk, I worry it'd be a bad time. Might this be the same time another young man in America decides to make his descent? If this is my adult mind, I can't imagine the dreams of the children asleep in their beds. Bedtime prayers become urgent pleas. Please, God, please don't let me be killed at school. Please watch over me when I'm in church, playing at Mikey's house, in the mosque, the synagogue, the garlic festival. Dreams that haunt, disrupt the sleep, baritone yells cut the night. I'm also gonna read, this is very fresh, you can see it's haven't made the corrections from the workshop yet, but it's very much relevant to some of the things that are happening right now. It's titled, "You Can Do That Kind of Thing in America." As we walked past the house with the 4-foot silver Buddha, seated in the wooden beam of a jungle gym, shrouded in lilac branches bursting, Maria told me, "You can't do that kind of thing in Russia." Her eyes glancing at the notably disparaging bumper sticker slapped on the back of an old tank of a Buick. She told me about the things that I had heard, that people disappear when they say things, like her mother's brother, her uncle, then another uncle, just like that. I think about these things now, as we are in it. No longer on the cusp, and I asked myself what I should be doing. Should I make a quick getaway? The way Gerhard Richter drove himself out of East Berlin, never to see his family again. If I think about it, I don't think Maria's thoughts registered with me. Maybe I was thinking I didn't have to worry about that then. The same way it never really registered that when a little blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl named Christina made her way out of the woods and into my childhood backyard, kind of like a little fairy tale, that it was anything but. I'd come to learn that Christina's family had been refugees in Rome, Italy, having escaped the pogroms of the 1980s. I don't know if it were the nightly news with Dan Rather, or if it was just because as a child I could conjure fear out of anything. But after Christina moved in, I had nightmares of being caught in the woods by Russian soldiers, driving the butt of their rifles into the center of my chest, pinning me to the ground. Thank you so much. So glad to be here.
So two quick announcements. One is that Chuck has some books over there if anybody's interested. Bill Waterhouse might even sell them to you. There they are. The other is that we're gonna go have dinner, some of us, down the block at the Gaslight Grill. Probably gonna fold out here as soon as we're done because they close at like 9. Yeah, we gotta, so we will get there. Some of us will get there and stake the claim if you want to join us. And the next reading that we have is June 21st, which is a Saturday. It is Professor Arturo, AKA Arthur Pfister, who's a great spoken word poet from New Orleans. I think he's in his late 70s now. I've been doing it for about 50 years. So he has a lot of stories about being a poet in New Orleans and about the city generally. So it's a Saturday, not a Friday, to accommodate a few different things. So come on down if you're have mind to. There's one more person here who it's Marty. Marty Murphy, everybody.
Being that Memorial Day just happened, I thought I'd do something for that. So it's something that I wrote when I was basically a little kid, and I just kind of always remembered. So here goes. Battleland salutes the wall. He bows his head and prays to them all. He snaps to and he stands up straight, and he hears the young voice in the wall today. The command has changed, but we are soldiers still. The old man snaps back without missing a beat. The command hasn't changed, son. It never will. And he winked at me, and he faded away. I'm not even sure he was there that day. But I spent the day in Arlington, and I've seen the old people, right? As they put down their poems and songs, and the younger ones just think, well, why does the black wall reflect the faces at sea? Why are all the graves the same? Not all the people that we see, how can one name mean anything? But I see a little boy, being carried on his daddy's shoulders, and they slowly walk by the wall. And little boy only points to his own name, and I can see those teardrops fall. They fall for the times remembered, and they fall for the times forgot. Most of all, times never had, so that they would have meant a lot. Now I have seen the faces, that I have seen photographs. Money doesn't mean much here in Arlington. All poems are written by hand, and they are written to the unknown soldier, and they are written to damn good friends. And what a person really needs in their life, well, it might be a different question. But I learned that because I spent some time in Arlington.
Marty is a novelist and a memoirist, And the name of your memoir, Marty, is One More Breath. One More Breath, which is, I'm not gonna give away all of it stuff, let's just say it's got adventure, it's got overcoming obstacles, so. And I recommend the new novel, called Crosswalker, when it comes out. This is right. I'm gonna end with just one short poem that I literally wrote while waiting for an oil change. My phone. I'm throwing my phone into the ocean, deep and wide enough to swallow all the alerts. I've forgotten how to silence. Burial at sea of all the live photos, vids, and voices. My loss is lost in a miles deep canyon. Among sightless sea monsters, more frightening than being tracked, monitored, surveilled. I was raised by the ocean. So it calls, lately to say that calls are distracting me from the shadings of the waves. Warm evening's light on a walk I've taken to empty my scrolling, crawling mind. As I watch the hermit crabs sink into the sand when they sense predators that watch them. That's all that happens in the ocean. Okay, so June 21st, folks, keep it on your calendars. Thanks again, especially to Chuck and to Greg for making the trip and being fabulous. And this, see you next month, and let's go eat.
Not a shout out for the staff.
Hey, staff.
One, I think you're trying to stay.
That's Abby at the register. Round of applause for Abby. And that's please, you guys be graduating.
Great, everybody.
Yeah.